Welcome back everybody to Kerbal Space Program Interstellar Quest. We have arrived at episode 14. Yes, it's been quite a journey and there's a lot more to be doing and to be done before we actually get to our interstellar vehicle. We start our journey on a Moonbase Alpha with the Builder of Bases, or as its acronym may remind you of a favorite children's TV show. But before we get to that, we have to install fuel pumps. Fuel pumps is the new way in Wild Blue Technologies to pump fuel around, which confused me for quite some time. I was looking at it from the old perspective, and but once I figured it out, it became easier to transfer ore from our main base and fuel and electricity to, well, let's say, a remote crawler or rover or a rather large vehicle that you're able to construct from all the parts that you've been building. As soon as you have built this crane, you can build amazing stuff. And you're looking at Bob, named after Bob the Builder, or maybe Bobcat, the famous modder in KSP that was back in there in the very, very, very early days, making one of the first great mods. I remember his Orion capsule and his Soyuz craft, and I think I've used his nuclear engines for quite some time, even after they were long deprecated. I'm not sure what happens there. We have, let's see, I think this is Samlo Kerman. So yes, it's Samlo. Samlo Kerman, he is using Bob to print new parts using recipes and sending over the ore and the electricity from the main base. However, yeah, since we moved the crane, something is going on and parts are exploding for some reason, and when we load and save and quick save and load again, it seems to work, but now the parts that we built have a hard time attaching. This might also be Pathfinder being optimized for Kerbal inventory system and not for stock inventory system, but it's really fighting me. The plan of Samuel was to build a small base or expand the current base with a small moon village or even a large moon village based on the Pathfinder path. So we would have some room to expand, to have additional omni-converters to create fuel and monopropellant and all that other cool stuff that we need in the future, to have housing and storage for lots of ores and spare parts. And I've tried many things. I've been building even the Rockomax hub to see if that one connects, but I just struggle to make it work. It will connect on service mode, but it won't connect to the nodes. So if anybody knows, please drop me a note in the comments. I'd be curious to see if anybody was able to solve this. Samlo spent a long time doing this, moving bits around. Occasionally, when I got too fed up, I would raise the part up in the sky and just drop it using a vessel mover to destroy it, because my engineer does not have a high enough rating to actually destroy stuff himself. Yeah, so Samlo is quite disappointed about this, and in the future he will be successful with some other Pathfinder parts and statics, but I'll show you that in a minute. First off, we have Theoli Kerman, Brooke Kerman, Obrick and Catfleet Kerman heading to the moon on Seagan F8. And they're enjoying the new interior, having a look around at all the displays, getting to orbit. You've seen this a million times by now. The Atlas is a powerful craft, and I like the new way of doing things, like just getting the whole capsule in moon orbit and then landing on the main engine. And if you don't do it, like I just did again, do the majority of the landing burn with the main engine, there's an interesting offset that proves to be very hard to compensate for. And Brooke is an excellent pilot, but she's unable to compensate for the amount of delta V that she wants to spare, in contrast to being off target again. Well, no worries, we've got a moon-based taxi, the old surveyor craft, which was docked to the base to make sure we have some extra space, some breathing room. We have the extra lab there, but it's fully functional. And remember, we traveled long distances with this craft, so it's quite comfortable and able to function as a taxi. We're deploying the ladders and bringing our brave new crew over to the Surveyor. It's actually an expansion crew. I plan to have 2 crews on the moon at all times, or well, maybe not at all times, but at least 1 crew. And the moon base is more than capable of sustaining more than 1 crew. And as you will see, we have started working on what I will call Pathfinder City, an addition to Moonbase Alpha that houses factories, mining equipment and logistics. Well, we'll see that in a minute. And it's still a bit early to populate that, but we will populate it in the future. You also see a lot of new statics. In the right corner you see the television mast, or the radio tower mast that has been erected. There's some lights that will help us to navigate in the dark. We started spawning chemical constructions and tanks and pipelines, and lots of piles of regoliths have been emerging over time. And in the front window you can already see Pathfinder City emerge. And yeah, we got a parking lot where we have parked our spacecraft for now, maybe to do some maintenance. Bob is stored in the bill in the just at the horizon. And it's time to bring out our new crew and bring them to our moon base. Drop me a note in the comments if you think I should just expand on the current base or just build more smaller bases, like a whole city of nested nodes, or just one gigantic base. I know the last one is definitely Kraken bait, so for now I've opted against it, but let me know what you think. We're ferrying the crew over. It's a bit of a hassle to get the scientists in the lab. I'm adding 2 scientists now to the lab, making sure it's fully staffed, and processing that sweet science a little bit faster. I may also add additional labs and staff them with more scientists, so the whole processing goes faster and I get more science, because science is a problem. The drills are super busy getting up that ore that we need to build our base. We also need to move our spacecraft and refuel them, so we designed a wheeled elevation and navigation deployment yards, and that's quite the mouthful, but maybe we can turn this into a handy acronym. And if we have the builder of base and labeled Bob, then maybe it makes sense to make its counterpart a Wendy. Yes, on your screen you have Teoli Kerman heading for Wendy, our latest creation. And once Bob was operational, it became very easy to build additional crafts using Sandcastle. But you have to set it up properly, otherwise stuff explodes. I also have 2 large wild blue tanks stored, which have liquid fuel and oxidizer in them, which should in theory allow us to refuel craft. So we built this mobile crane or gantry, I'm not sure what the proper English word is, but this is an additional piece of hardware we have on the Mun, where we will go out and get spacecraft that have landed slightly too far away, or spacecraft that just need to be moved from one landing site to another, or maybe to a shipyard place where we'll do maintenance and a parking lot. Up until now we've been making small hops, but in a real life situation that would not make sense. I don't think you would actually make hops with landing spacecraft. It would kick up way too much regolith and clutter your solar panels and all the other stuff. And Teoli is gently getting to the craft and trying to connect with it. And having sunk the docking port inside the capsule means that you have to be perfectly aligned if you want to push the docking nodes together. This was a lot of wiggling to get it in there. Turn it left, turn it right. But we're getting closer with every time, and you can see the suspension of the Seagan helping out by pushing us upwards and rotating stuff and changing the docking speed. And there we are. We've made dock. The whole craft jumps up from joy. We can now retract the landing gear, pull up the craft a little bit from the give it just a little bit more clearance, and then drive very carefully, because this thing was dangling, as you can see. But if you drive very, very carefully, it's perfectly fine and safe. So this is what we'll be using to service our spacecraft. And we've got the 2 main landing zones that we've had since the beginning, but you now also see we have some additional shelters being popped up. We have some infrastructure, and in just a moment you will see our fuel production plant that we've created using the statics from... I forgot. That was a really cool mod. Something like Core Frontiers or something like that. Had some really cool chemical and solar statics. So finding the right statics to build up your base is not that easy. But over time, the Kerbals of course have time to process all the regolith and build the equipment, and not everything needs to be functional and operational. So here we are at landing zone 1, the furthest away from the base, and I've decided that this is where we will currently store our landers. I do want to build small launch hubs, which are a little bit more cleaner and tighter, and then reserve the LZs for really landing zones. They're a bit bigger, so if we're off target we should be able to still land inside the zone. This is me making sure that the docking force isn't too big when we disconnect, because it might just send the craft offline, but that's not a problem. We can just disconnect, lift the mobile arm and carefully drive backwards. And Wendy did an amazing job on her first outing, parking our spacecraft. And now it's up to Teoli to find a nice parking spot. Maybe we'll use the big platform that we have just outside our base. I haven't really decided what it is that I'm going to build on there. I think in the future I want to build dome structures, but I haven't really unlocked them yet, so I'm gonna wait with that until it actually makes sense. I have unlocked drills, so having the drilling and the mining rig in Pathfinder Citadel makes sense to me. Having these large parking areas totally makes sense to me. But here we are. And great job, Teoli. I think I will leave you for now and spend the next episode designing a more elaborate mission. But until then, I hope you have a great time, and I see you in the next episode.